Hello and welcome everyone to our event, introducing the International Pharmaceutical Federation and the FIP Young Pharmacists Group, FIP YPG. I'd like to start by saying that this is a special event for pharmacists in Bahrain and the Eastern Mediterranean region, but pharmacists around the globe are also invited to attend, so everyone is welcome. Please use the chat box to give us a brief introduction about yourself. We'd be delighted to hear from you if you're a student, if you're an early career pharmacist, or if you're a pharmacist or a pharmaceutical scientist. My name is Farah Haqqad, and I'm the Regional Engagement and Project Coordinator at FIP. We can go to the next slide. I'm joined today by my colleagues who will be talking about FIP in general, the FIP Development Goals, and FIP YPG. If we can go next, I'll start by introducing my colleague Shirley Mailaniti, who's the FIP Data and Intelligence Specialist, and who will co-moderate today's session with me. If we can go next, I'd also want to welcome Abrar Al-Husseini, who I'm sure most of you know as the passionate pharmacist from Bahrain. Abrar helped us deliver this event and she will be facilitating it. Abrar is a volunteer pharmacist at Al Shamil Field Hospital. Next, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speakers today. We're joined by Lina Badr, who's the FIP lead for Workforce and Transformation, and she's the lead for the FIP Development Goals. Dalia Bajes is the FIP lead for Provision and Partnerships. Lucas Ercolin, who's the FIP Young Pharmacy Group Chairperson of Public Relations, and PUI Health Project Manager. Finally, Ikwaibum, who's the FIP Young Pharmacy Group Chairperson of Projects, and he's also a hospital pharmacist. Next, please. I'd like to emphasize that we're planning and we intend to make today's event as engaging as possible so that you can benefit as much as possible. This is not a lecture. We've prepared a lot of engagement activities throughout the webinar, and we'd like to invite you to get energized and participate with us today as much as possible. As we mentioned, regarding the event outcomes in general, this is basically an initiative from us to seek opportunities and to develop pharmacy globally in solidarity with pharmacists in Bahrain and in the region. We'll start by introducing FIP, and then we will move to introducing the FIP Development Goals. You will be introduced to the activities that are being undertaken by the FIP Young Pharmacy Group. And then you'll hear some experiences from young pharmacists whose career have been impacted by FIP. And finally, we'll wrap up by the benefits of FIP and FIP YPG. If we can go next, without further ado, Shirley and I would like to begin by telling you a little story about our experience as early career pharmacists within FIP. So I've recently graduated from a pharmacy school at the Jordanian University in Jordan. I began my career as a pharmacist, and I actually studied pharmacy out of passion, but I've always felt that what I'm learning, what I'm studying, and the curricula that is being taught, those aren't preparing me to be a competent pharmacist. I saw a gap in my practical talents, in my practical skills, and as well as my personal and my professional skills. I felt that science was not connected to practice, and workforce, those elements were not connected at all. And my first step to overcome this was the International Pharmaceutical Student Federation. It was a crucial experience. I served as the president of the National Association in Jordan. And I can tell you that this was the light that led me to determine my next steps and to identify some of the gaps that I had. During my last year, I met Lina and I began working as an intern with FIP. I started to explore new definitions of the pharmacy profession. So I can tell you that FIP widened my views and it helped me realize my potential. It encouraged me to work on certain shortcomings, and it provided me with a path to personal advancement. I can guarantee that what FIP offered me was not something that I could buy. It gave me a map that I could use to guide myself as a pharmacist. When I was a student in Jordan and when I graduated, I knew that pharmacists in the Eastern Mediterranean region are restricted to few sectors, like a community pharmacist, hospital pharmacist, and a regulatory or a medical representative. And I'm sure that this is true for Bahrain as well. So as a take-home lesson or a take-home message from my journey, FIP as a global organization will provide you with guidance. And these organizations, these global organizations, are not only advancing pharmacy worldwide, they're advancing individuals with guidance. If you're a student, your first step could be IPSF, the International Pharmaceutical Student Federation, and then followed by the FIP Young Pharmacy Group, and then finally FIP. But that's one of 100 or 1,000 stories in FIP. So I'll turn the floor over to Shirley to guide us through her story and the following part.
Thank you very much, Farah. It's so lovely to meet you before we met before, I think, during the regional events in, oh my God, it's 2 years ago. It was 2 years ago, I think, in Amman. So it was really lovely meeting you at the time. And welcome everyone. So I will share a bit about my story here. I'm actually from Indonesia. And I'm currently working in FIP as FIP Data and Intelligence Specialist. My story was basically, I graduated previously in Indonesia. It's actually quite a long time ago. And after I finished my degree, I actually start working in a hospital pharmacist because I really love engaging with patients. Patient is always my aim. I would like to like consult patient, help them with their medicine. So that is why before I work as a hospital pharmacist. But then I realized that I need to do more because after I graduated, I feel like it's not enough. I need to learn more and I need to study more. Not like Farah. Before that, Farah was basically being involved in International Pharmaceutical Student Federation. When I was in Indonesia, I didn't have a chance to do that. I was just studying at the time. And then I continue my study in UCL School of Pharmacy, doing my master there as a clinical pharmacist. And then I realized that I want to do more. I want to study more. And now I'm currently doing my PhD in UCL School of Pharmacy, focusing on workforce development in Indonesia. So the story that I have with being involved in International Pharmaceutical Federation Young Pharmacists Group at the time was because during my PhD, I need family. I need someone that I can be involved with, communicate with, help me with my career. And that's where I found actually International Pharmaceutical Federation Young Pharmacists Group. As I mentioned before that I wasn't aware about International Pharmaceutical Student Federation previously, and I directly involved with the International Pharmaceutical Federation Young Pharmacists Group. And here in YPG, I was previously involved as a project coordinator. And then I follow my journey as a president last year, president of FIP Young Pharmacists Group. And I must say, this was a really amazing experience being involved as part of the FIP Young Pharmacists Group, because that's where I can see my family. That's where I can basically find my friend, network with the other, learning more, be inspired with the other. So it's really, really amazing experience for me. And now I'm working full-time with FIP, following with my passion related to the data and intelligence specialist. And yeah, I can talk more, but I think we have more activities today where we want to learn together, so you all can know more about FIP. So let me maybe just go ahead with our session. Just the first thing is about what is FIP actually, what is International Pharmaceutical Federation. International Pharmaceutical Federation is was founded in 1912, and it was actually the global pharmacy body. It's the global federation, and currently we have more than 170 national and regional organizations. And we also represent millions of pharmacists, pharmaceutical scientists, and pharmacy educators. And we also have pharmacy students being involved with us as well. And we are a non-governmental organization, and we have been in official relationship with the World Health Organization to basically to support. And during the World Health Assembly in Geneva, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the WHO to support their initiative in human resources for health, primary healthcare, and universal health coverage. And we also, this is actually, I already mentioned previously, we just signed, we signed the memorandum of understanding with the WHO in May 2019. And the memorandum of understanding is basically related to how we can strengthen partnership around workforce, patient safety, primary healthcare, and also other area. And we will have the first activity today. And I will invite my colleagues again, Farah, to guide us through about our first engagement activities. Farah?
Thank you, Shirley. So I'll start with the first question. It's to clarify our understanding together. What do you think the difference between a mission and a vision statement is? If you want to speak live, I think you can raise your hand. But if you wish to respond using a text, you can use the chat box to share with us some responses. We will give this 1 minute or less. And I'll encourage you again to share your responses, because we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your answers and your thoughts about this. What do you think the difference between a mission and a vision statement is? While you're sharing some responses, I'd also like to urge you to use the Q&A box. So in the bottom of the screen, you will find a Q&A button that you can use. And you can share any questions that you have, and we'll be delighted, the speakers will be delighted to respond to your and answer your questions within the webinar. So I think we've received one in the chat box from Haya, who says that a mission statement is short-term, whereas a vision statement is long-term, where it determines an organization's desired future. Raja, mission is the goal forever, while vision is the future goals. So while I leave you thinking about this, Shifa, a mission is a task someone works upon, whereas a vision statement is a task that a person envisions the reality already and works to make it come true. Keep them coming. Yes, we'd love to hear more responses, but while you're thinking about it, I think we can share the correct answer, and your answers, it includes all of the answers that we've seen together. Vision, in Arabic, I'll say it's ru'ya. We're talking about a term which represents future, as we mentioned, where we're heading, the future desired state that we hope to achieve one day. Whereas mission, we're talking present tense. It represents what we do daily, describing why we do this, what we do every single day. We can go next, Shirley. We'll move together to another engagement activity now. So before we share with you the mission and the vision of FIP, and now that we've understood together what's the difference between those two terms, as a global umbrella that represents pharmacists all over the world, what do you think FIP's mission should include in your opinion? So what should any global organization representing thousands and millions of pharmacists along with all pharmacists in the world mission include? We'd like to ask you to scan the QR code on the screen or use the link that we will share in the chat box. I think we've already shared it in the chat box. And the results should show on the next slide with your responses as a word cloud. Again, I'd like to encourage everyone's participation. We'll give this 1 minute to check your responses and your thoughts. Advanced care, vaccines for all, universal health care, vulnerability care. That's good. Thank you, colleagues, for submitting your responses and for these answers. Care, patient first, global health, responsibility. Well, that is coming nicely, I think. Help each other, provide pharma education, unite pharmacists. We will certainly save this word cloud. No capitalism on medicine, improving knowledge, respect, informing public about pharma, help each other. So our colleagues are sharing the FIP's or what they think FIP's mission should include. Career development. This is great. This is just great. Thanks, everyone. These answers actually represent and reflect our personal commitment as pharmacists, and it includes everything, basically. Thank you, colleagues, and thank you, Shirley. If we can go to the next slide, let's explore together the actual vision and the mission of FIP, which combines and it actually aligns with the answers that we have in this word cloud. Shirley, if we can go to the next slide, please. So the vision. FIP's vision is a world where everyone benefits from access to safe and effective medicines and pharmaceutical care. That's the future state we aim to achieve. The mission on the next slide is every day we work to improve global health by supporting the advancement of pharmaceutical practice, sciences, and education, the three elements that are needed for our profession. We can go next. You will see the 6 strategic outcomes for FIP. Everyone has access to medicines that they need. They have access to health and medicines that are related information, that includes related informations needed. Benefits from new medicines, services, and health technologies. Ensure responsible and quality use of medicines. Health professionals and patients work together to ensure comprehensive healthcare. And finally, FIP is vibrant and growing organization that meets the needs and function of its members. In the next slide, I will briefly go through what we do in FIP. First is policy statement and guidance. especially now with the global health gap in the world. FIP is highlighting and it is advancing the role of pharmacists by influencing national governments, sending letters to Ministry of Health. And I'd like to give an example from where I come from. For example, in Jordan, pharmacists are now able to give the influenza vaccine because FIP supported the Jordanian Pharmaceutical Association to influence the government and the Ministry of Health. Second is research and publications providing evidence. You will find a library of different tools that will guide you and will support you. Next, you'll see advocacy on health issues and the value of pharmacy. And finally, we have congresses and conferences that will open doors to develop our profession and to develop pharmacists themselves. And as Shirley mentioned, those are a great place to network and to meet pharmacy leaders from all around the globe. I'll hand it over to Shirley now to walk you through some other slides representing FIP.
Thank you, Farah. So in the next slide, what I will discuss is about a bit about FIP structure. So inside FIP, we have three constituency. We have Board of Pharmaceutical Sciences, we have Board of Pharmaceutical Practice, and FIP Education. We know that in our profession, it is only us, basically. We are unique because we have education, we have science, and we also have practice. And under the maxim of one FIP, we have started to break down the silo and basically unify FIP with all structure working together. We are all dependent on each other. And we know that in order to consolidate the position of pharmacists in the different health system and to be able to take new role and provide new services, all these three domains need to be working together and they are crucial. Practice cannot exist without science or education, and only this interdependency and the collaboration of these three domains can ensure universal health coverage, which one thing that I saw previously in the word cloud. So that's really, really aligned. And inside its board, for example, here in Board of Pharmaceutical Practice, we have around 8 sections. We have academic pharmacy, clinical biology, community pharmacy, health and medicine information, hospital pharmacy, industrial pharmacy, military and emergency pharmacy, and social and administrative pharmacy. You all can be part of this section if you would like to. So we will discuss about that later as well on how you can be part of FIP. In science, Board of Pharmaceutical Sciences, we have 6 special interest groups. We have drug delivery and manufacturing, new generation of pharmaceutical scientists, new medicines, personalized and precision medicine, pharmacy practice research, and regulatory science and quality. And in the workforce and education, we have academic institutional membership and academic pharmacy section, also part of FIP education, and also workforce development hub. And here you can explore more. This is actually a screenshot from the FIP website, and you can explore more in its section or its special interest group and looking at what they are currently doing and what which part of them that you would like to explore more. So we presented before the concept of one FIP, and we have been working on all elements. Since then, like we mentioned before, that no other organizations can combine science, education, and practice under one roof. So yeah, that's basically about FIP structure. And I will now hand over to my colleagues, Dr. Lina Badr, to have another engagement activity today about Sustainable Development Goals. Lina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Shirley and Farah, for that great introduction. And truly, I am inspired to always hear the young voices of FIP and the young professionals and leaders we have. And I know most of the participants here with us today are such people. So I'm very excited to talk to you a little bit more about the development goals. I'll try and keep it very brief because there's a lot to go through, but I encourage you to also have a look at all the resources we have online. All information is out there. But first, let's start with a very quick question. I do hope everybody on the call is familiar with what you're seeing on screen, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. These are the world's global goals. All nations around the world aim to achieve these goals by 2030. That's when the Sustainable Development Agenda has been planned against that date. And we at FIP are also ensuring that the pharmacy agenda is aligned with this. So maybe a quick question. Which of the UN Sustainable Development Goals do you think pharmacists contribute to directly? Please go to menti.com, use that code on the screen, or scan the QR code you see on the screen, or use the link that's just been shared on the chat by my colleagues. And we'll be excited to see some of your questions. So we have 17 development goals. Some of them you'll be surprised how pharmacy is linked to. Some of them are more obvious. We're just very curious what you think. Please do refresh the Menti and use the code on the screen so you can go to the right question. There we go. We're getting some answers. So let's just go through very quickly the Sustainable Development Goals. Number 1 is no poverty. Number 2 is zero hunger. Number 3 is good health and well-being. 4 is quality education. 5, gender equality. 6, clean water and sanitation. 7 is affordable and clean energy. 8 is decent work and economic growth. Number 9 is about infrastructure, industrial and innovative. Number 10 is reduced inequalities. 11 is about sustainable cities and communities. Responsible consumption and production is number 12. 13 is climate action. 14 is life below water. 15 is life on land. 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. And 17 is partnerships for the goals. So we're getting some answers now, and not surprisingly, we're getting a lot of answers around number 3. 8 so far. Number 4, quality education. We're getting a couple there, which are good. Responsible consumption production, which is really interesting. Peace, justice, and strong institutions. Life below water. Clean water and sanitation. I'm glad to see some of the more environmentally linked goals being selected, because that's absolutely true that pharmacists have a role there. Decent work and economic growth, number 8, is getting also another answer, which is very true as well. As part of the health workforce, pharmacists and pharmacy workers do contribute to economic growth through decent work conditions as well. I believe we are still receiving some answers. 22 answers so far. Well, it's no surprise then that number 3, good health and well-being, is the most relevant one to pharmacy. Let's see how these goals link to the development goals and how the development goals help pharmacy deliver on these global goals as well. If we can go to the next slide. So again, these are the goals, and unsurprisingly, good health and well-being is one of the key goals. And the World Health Organization has considered that pharmacists are a key component to achieving the targets of this goal. So they have been recognized as a key component of achieving goal number 3 worldwide, which is a great achievement for us and really gives us more impetus to deliver on that. And next, please. So just reminding you of the global agenda. So we've just covered the Sustainable Development Goal. That's going from the right of the screen, going to the middle. The Astana Declaration of 2018 is all about primary healthcare, committing to primary healthcare being a critical foundation for universal health coverage. So the Astana Declaration for primary healthcare is another really important milestone for us at FIP. We have co-signed this declaration and co-developed it with the World Health Organization and other organizations. Pharmacists, being at the forefront of the profession, have a huge role to play in delivering primary healthcare. So primary healthcare is hugely important for us at FIP. And of course, all of these fit within the universal health coverage agenda. We cannot deliver or achieve universal health coverage without maximizing primary healthcare. And goal number 3, the SDG number 3, is all about delivering universal health coverage. It means that all people receive the health services they need without being pushed into poverty by paying for them, of course, and pharmacy has a role to play here. Next, please, click. So, as a summary again, pharmacy is part of the primary healthcare solution to universal health coverage. And as I've mentioned, pharmacists have been recognized in the indicator to achieve SDG 3 on good health and well-being, and they can contribute to other goals as well. So we have developed the 1 FIP goals that bring together pharmaceutical practice, science, workforce and education under one roof. And that's really what FIP has to deliver. We at FIP believe that we can have no pharmaceutical care without a pharmaceutical workforce, and we can have no proper care without a strong scientific foundation for the next decade. And of course, it's worth mentioning again that we've provided some translations to some of the text on screen for reference, but I personally will be using just the English translation, the English version for now. But I hope that that additional context is helpful. Next slide, please, shows you the 21 development goals that we have launched almost exactly a year ago. So actually next week on the 21st of September, we'll be celebrating the 1-year anniversary of the development goals. We have based these goals on 13 workforce development goals we initially developed back in 2016, and we've decided to expand them to live up to the 1 FIP agenda. So all goals now reflect practice, science, workforce, and education. I know we will be have some time going through them, so I'm going to go to the next bit, please. And again in Arabic, so some of these goals, you know, this is a good chance to maybe go through them. Just have a look at what they mean to you, really. So number 1, for example, academic capacity, al-kafa'a al-akademiya. So some of them you'll see that they're probably very centered around education and training, and some very centered around practice and service provision. So number 16, for example, is communicable diseases or al-amrad al-mu'adiyya. And we're going to go through these goals shortly. If we go to the next slide, we want to show you a short video to familiarize yourselves with the goals. Please play. Thank you. Thank you for that. So just a little bit more about the goals, some more context. So they have been developed as a key resource for transforming the pharmacy profession, not only globally, but regionally and nationally, but also really institutionally. So at your own institution or place of work or context, the goals can be relevant to you and to the development of pharmacy around you. Next slide, please. We really believed that it was important to bring together pharmaceutical practice, science, and workforce education into one transformative framework for all of our members as FIP and the wider profession to clearly set out the goals for development for the next decade. And it's worth noting here that no other profession has developed such a set of goals. And the World Health Organization and our other partners really recognize all of the work we do and how much we align with the global agenda. And that's a really great thing for pharmacy everywhere. So let me explain a little bit more about the goals. So we have 21 goals, but each of the goals is composed of 3 elements, we call them. One for practice, one for science, one for workforce. You can consider them sub-goals that are addressed at each of these areas. And with each element, we provide a set of tools and structures that can facilitate the support and support the process of transformation. And you can see on the screen the link to the goals, so you can browse through the DGs online at your own time. Maybe I'll ask one of my team members to share the link on the chat just for ease of reference. But I really recommend you having a look at that. And this year we're developing an entire new website for the DG specifically as a full resource center for these goals. Next slide, please. So some history. I know this is a busy slide, but just as I mentioned earlier, in 2016, we started with a set of workforce development goals. So these were a set of 13 goals that focused on workforce development in pharmacy. We launched them in China, and they really focused on workforce and education. 2017, 2018, 2019, we continued with efforts to support the implementation of these workforce development goals. We have a global report called the FIP Nanjing report that really confirms our commitment to implement these workforce development goals. We developed in 2018 a hub that includes global experts on workforce and education that can help us develop tools to support their implementation. And we launched an FIP Workforce Transformation Program in 2019, which allows us to work with countries directly on a national level to help them with transformation based on their own needs. Of course, all this time, the one FIP sort of agenda was coming together. And in 2020, exactly 1 year ago, we launched the FIP Development Goals, the 21, which build on the first 13 from back in 2016 and expand them as global goals for pharmacy transformation. This year, 21, and next year, we are continuing with FIP DG's implementation program, really prioritizing identifying global, regional, and national priorities, working on developing indicators that can help us measure progress, and much more work. So it's 24 months of implementation enablement programs. All of this leading up to 2023, where FIP is planning to host a Health Minister Summit, during which we'll report the progress of these goals to health ministers. So that's going to be a very important milestone. And of course, we'll continue working through that, reaching to the 2030 in alignment with the global agenda for sustainable development as well. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as I mentioned, each of the 21 goals comprise 3 elements, which we donate with a little W for workforce, a little P for practice, and a little S for science. Next slide, please. So a little engagement activity, and again, inviting you to go to the website to read more about the goals. There's much more to the goals than what I described, but from the goals present on the slide, and I hope you can read the text on there, which one of these topics would you like to learn more about or feel you're most attracted to? So please go to menti.com, use the code on the screen or scan the QR code. I know that the link will be shared on the chat. And while you submit your questions, I'll just run through the goals, just reading them out to help you with the text there. Number 1, academic capacity. 2, early career training strategy. 3, quality assurance. 4, advanced and specialist development. And I know it's appearing in Arabic now. 5, competency development. 6, leadership development. 7 is sort of advancing integrated services. 8 is working together. 9 is all about continuing professional development, CPD. 10 is equity and equality. 11 is impact and outcomes. 12 is pharmacy intelligence or data. 13 is policy development. And 14 is medicines expertise. 15 is digital health. 16 is communicable diseases. 17 is antimicrobial stewardship. 18 is access to medicine services and devices. 19 is patient safety. 21 is digital health. 21 is sustainable pharmacy or sustainability in pharmacy. Let's see what's coming back. We're getting some good responses. A lot around 14, medicines expertise. Number 2, early career training strategy. Number 16, communicable diseases. I think that's becoming a hot topic, especially as we live through the pandemic. Number 12, pharmacy intelligence. Number 17, antimicrobial stewardship. We are still getting some answers, so we want to see some more responses, but I'm really interested to see how number 14 is getting a lot of interest as well. We consider FIP pharmacists being the most experts in medicines around the world, so we really have to capitalize on that skill and deliver based on that capability. Great. So some answers that give us an indication, and it's not a surprise that early career training strategy number 2 is always a hit with young pharmacists around the world, but I'm really interested to see how some of the more practice or patient care centered ones are really getting some interest as well. Thank you very much. I hope this was a stimulating exercise, and I think the next slide is me reminding you of some resources. So we have a full resource page on our FIP.org/FIP/development/goals. Please visit that. Please do engage. Follow us on social media if you don't already. You can use these hashtags when you refer to the goals, and please look out for all the work we are doing. Next week, we have some more events relating to the development goals. So please look up our website, events.fip.org. I know that will be shared later to register for some of our DG related events. Thank you so much, and I'll hand back over to my colleagues.
Thank you, Lina. Thank you so much, Lina, and thank you everyone for the valuable engagement. If you have any questions for Lina, please use the Q&A box. Lina will answer all questions that you submit. And at the end of our session, if we have time, we will open the floor to address some of these Q&As, but please feel free in the meantime to submit some questions through the Q&A, and we'll make sure to answer and to address all of these. For now, I will hand over to Dalia, and she will walk us through one of the most important DGs, in my opinion, DG2, the Early Career Training Strategy. Dalia, floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Farah. I just want to make sure that you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can hear you, Dalia.
Thanks, Farah. Lovely. Thank you so much. Marhaba, everybody. For those of you that are speaking Arabic, what a pleasure to be amongst you all. And just looking at some of the attendees for today's event, welcome everybody, especially to those that I'm familiar with their names, from Bahrain, where I reside at the moment. As Farah has mentioned, I am the FIP lead for provision and partnerships. I have been in posts with FIP as staff since February of this year only, but prior to that, for coming on to 10 years now, I have been a FIP volunteer, really working with colleagues from all around the world to really deliver on my own passions for pharmacy development and advancement, but also shoulder to shoulder, learning from colleagues, networking with colleagues, exposing myself knowledge-wise, research-wise, to what is happening around the globe for our beloved profession. DG2, Early Career Training Strategy, is one of the 21 development goals to advance pharmacy around the world. Lina has beautifully summarized the concept, but the concept is also becoming a reality via the efforts that are being undertaken by many of our FIP volunteers, members, and colleagues around the world to advance our profession over multiple sectors. I have been fortunate to have worked with colleagues that I would like to acknowledge today. My colleague, Dr. Asma Al-Haqqan from Kuwait University. I also worked with Mr. Shepard Mahlaba from Zimbabwe, and recently joined this particular team is Mr. Franciscus Cristianto from Indonesia. I work along these colleagues on projects to address, as Lena has described, ways in which we can actually advance early career development. Many of you on the call today are either pharmacy students or pharmacists in their early careers. And so this would be quite relevant for you to perhaps learn about. I was quite pleased to see that DV2 got a couple of interest points on the Menti map. And so for those of you that would like to know more about it, I will give you a bit of an overview, so a bit of a focus on this. Next slide, please, Farah. So the focus is on DV2, early career development. Thank you very much, Farah. And as Lena has already described, each of the development goals focuses on three elements or three ways in which we can advance that particular goal. For development goal number 2, which focuses on the foundation training or early career training infrastructures that are in place in any country, organization for those early career pharmacists, which we're talking about the post-registration or post-licensing years of the pharmaceutical workforce. And for that, the importance for this particular goal is that it really creates the basis to consolidate the initial education and training and progress on it for the novice workforce towards advanced practice. Via the three mechanisms, which are composed of workforce, W for workforce, which is the first one on the left-hand side of the screen, we're able to create, or we focus on creating clear and purposeful education and training pathways, programs to support post-registration and foundation training. We're also able to focus on early career maps and frameworks to support a seamless transition between education as an undergraduate individual to a practicing pharmacist or pharmaceutical scientist. We're also able to maybe develop some sort of structures for early career mentoring programs, to support early career pharmacists engage better with their peers, with their preceptors and colleagues they work with. But when we look at the practice, which is in the middle, the second mechanism, similarly, through that, we should be focusing on, again, developing structured opportunities for in-practice early career training, provide career mentorship support, provide appropriate incentives and recognition and certification of practice development. And finally, the science element of DG2, again, looking at ways in which we can mentor our early career pharmaceutical scientists as they move and progress in their career paths. Next slide, please, Farah. So this really brings me to a question that came to my mind when I started doing this work. And I asked myself, what kind of a skill or a knowledge area or a particular sort of skill related to practice that I believe I should have had or been equipped with when I graduated from university. And for those of you on the call today that are either at the early steps of their professional lives or perhaps are in their final year of university education and wondering about particular skills that they wish they had or been equipped with to enter practice, what would be one skill that you think you should have been or should be equipped with coming onto practicing in your country or in your own context. And I just wondered whether people would like to maybe just share their thoughts in the chat box and just giving them a minute to think about that. Just naming one skill that you believe you should have been equipped with on entry to practice as a qualified pharmacist, or we should had known more about, for example. Seeing some response coming through, but I'm not sure if could we perhaps put them in English in the chat box. Sorry. We're getting some responses. So thank you to Walid, who shared perhaps communication skills. Very, very important skill indeed. Insurance policies, so knowing more a little bit about the management side of pharmacy, both community and hospital. Very, very true. Resilience. Thank you, John. Resilience. Be more resilient in the workplace. It's especially during these really tough periods of time that we're going through right now. Working fast with accuracy, so working, Raja, working under pressure, how to perhaps manage your time. Okay, there's a bit more there about stock management, so a bit about pharmacy management there. Yep, very good. Pharmaceutical care skills, I can't agree more, Noura. Very, very important. And I will share with you my own experience about pharmaceutical care intervention skills. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Working under pressure, right. And resilience. Thank you. These are all very, very valid and very useful. And the reason I am bringing this question up is because we all, upon entry to practice, will have perhaps some gaps in our knowledge, some gaps in our skills. And it is really, really, this knowledge that we gained from our undergraduate education can only be consolidated in practice. And really, this brings me to the next slide, please, Farah. And that is where we're able to talk about the global competency framework. I bring this up because this really is a major project / framework / pillar for development goal number 2. The global competency framework was launched initially in 2012, and it contained a structured array or assembly of behavioral competencies, al-maharat in Arabic, that contribute towards supporting foundation level practitioner development. It outlines skills and knowledge that are generic to pharmacists, core to pharmacists in any context or any nation. So this particular set of competencies, we call them global competencies, because also they went under a validation process in FIP. It's a validated framework, which the intention of it was to act as a mapping tool for individuals such as ourselves to progress towards effective and sustained performance. So see that question I asked before about what skill or knowledge do you think you require upon entry to practice? Well, with the global competency framework, and we will be sharing the link of that in the chat box, you would be able to see a set of competencies that many of which are actually relevant to your current place of practice. And you will be able to also see and recognize which of those competencies you would like to work up towards improving on, progressing on, and the ways in which you would do that. So FIP has done a marvelous job at providing us with such a framework to really provide a tool to the global audience in pharmacy to really map, if wherever possible, the set of skills and knowledge and attitudes, talking about resilience and attitude and working under pressure with what is actually happening with us in practice. And so I've had the pleasure of working on this particular global competency framework in 2020. Next slide, please, Shirley, where I worked along my colleagues in DG2 on the revision of the 2012 document. As you can imagine, with the expansion of the type of services that pharmacists may provide to their patients, the skills that they require to communicate and provide such services to their patients, and all the advances in technology and digital health and therapeutics, with an emphasis on new concepts such as social accountability, public health involvement, and the response to that, revising and updating this global competency framework became an imperative. Again, aligning with FIP's global vision for improving education and workforce around the world that we described right at the beginning of the session. And so the team and I, with consultation from experts within FIP in this field, we were able to revise the handbook. And we now have a 2020 version that you're very welcome to scan the barcode or look it up on our website, which still preserved 4 competency clusters. The global competency framework, and I should have mentioned this in my previous slide, I'm sorry, actually is made up of 4 clusters. The 4 clusters, so big umbrella groups, each group has under it a set of behavioral competencies. So we have group number 1, which is the pharmaceutical public health cluster, big umbrella, big tent. Then we have another big tent or big umbrella of pharmaceutical care competencies. Then we have the third cluster is on organization and management, and the third one is on professional and personal competencies. So when we updated this, a lot of the majority of competencies remained unchanged. However, we made sure that they were updated. But what we can share with you, and if you just click on the next slide, please, Shirley, is that what I can share with you that is highlighted in the orange font is that these were the newly added competency areas. So for example, in the cluster of pharmaceutical public health, I am sure, considering the current crisis that we are living through as in a pandemic, plus a lot of the global and regional conflicts that are happening around the world, you could appreciate the pharmacist's role in emergency response and preparedness. That was added to this global competency framework. We wanted to really flag the importance of that. I'll share another example with you. For the professional and in the professional and personal competency cluster, in addition to what you've mentioned in the chat box, such as communication skills, which we had in the handbook, and professionalism and ethics, quality assurance, we added things like digital literacy. We added interprofessional collaboration because we know how important this skill is to have today. Today, we are working with many of our colleagues across the health sector and outside the health sector in our different roles. But also we added leadership and self-regulation. The other clusters, we also made some updates on the actual behavioral competencies as well. So I just wanted to give you a bit of a flavor, a bit of a sense what we're actually talking about here. Some of you mentioned, for example, stock management, relating more to the organization and management. So already in this global competency framework that we can go and visit now, there are competencies related to budget and reimbursement, to human resource management, improvement of service, procurement, supply chain management, for example. In addition, some of you on the chat said pharmaceutical care competencies. How important are these? This is like what we do day in, day out. Our ability to be involved in assessment of medicines, to be able to compound medicines, dispensing, monitoring of medicines therapy, patient consultation, and diagnosis where possible. And so I'd like to share with you, and as presented on my next slide, is that the Global Competency Framework, the GBCF, is a beginning of a continuum of professional development. It is like a starting point or a starting building block on your initial education and training. Why? To provide guidance for early career training, to provide guidance for our employers, our educators, our policymakers in how to advance early career pharmacists and how to progress them professionally. Okay, but also it is for further development into advanced practice and specialization. And FIP also through development goal number 4, which focuses on advanced and specialist development, but also through competency development in development goal number 5, you can see the continuation for professional development from early career to advanced practitioner. In fact, we also have at FIP the Global Advanced Development Framework, which stems from the work of development goal number 4 colleagues and experts. So we do have that as well. And so the idea of the Global Competency Framework is not only to support us at individual level as members of this profession in our career development, but also it is crucial for the progress towards meeting the FIP global vision for workforce, for education, for pharmaceutical science, for practice, for the development of FIP development goals, as Lena has already mentioned. DG2 is a subset of that. It is or a group in that, or from a cocktail of development goals. And therefore, it is really important to understand, sorry, Shirley, I'm actually still on that previous slide, but that's okay, is that the DG2 has a direct contribution as well, and can have a direct contribution through you and through our professional pharmacy associations and bodies around the world for a national progression of the workforce. And these also go hand in hand with other development goals, such as 4, 5, maybe even 6, 7, 8, and 9 on continuing professional development. So going to the next slide, please. Thanks, Shirley. Similarly, like many FIP tools, mechanisms, and frameworks, the GBCF is a living document, and it will continue to evolve and develop as we progress in our services, in our technology advances and professional duties. The GBCF is also a tool that can be adopted. You take it on board, but you adapt it to your local or your national or your individual needs. And it can be done on many, many levels to support professional development of the individual that contributes to that pharmaceutical workforce in your own country. And so this has given you a bit of an overview or a spotlight on DG2, early career development. And I would like to now switch gears and maybe share with you my experience of how I built on my passion and ambition for this profession of ours, and built as well on the tools and the mechanisms and the opportunities that I was given because I was a member at FIP. See, I truly believed in the saying that, as Benjamin Franklin says, tell me and I forget, teach me and I may remember, involve me and I learn. Based on the competencies under the pharmaceutical care cluster of the GBCF, particularly 2.1 assessment of medicines, monitored medicine therapy in 2.5, and patient consultation and diagnosis. In 2016, with a group of researchers from the University of Sydney, we wanted to focus on the skill of obtaining an accurate patient medication history, and to perform medication reconciliation. This was part of my PhD journey. And so part of this journey, I extracted a couple of these competencies that we just highlighted under pharmaceutical care, and with a particular focus on our ability as pharmacists to conduct appropriate and effective patient medication history interviews to be able to perform medication reconciliation. We consider this a core skill in pharmacy practice to optimize patient safety at transitions of care. And so, building on that, I traveled to Jordan, Amman, Al-Urdun, and I was very fortunate to work with a group of colleagues and pharmacy students from the Applied Science Private University, ASU. We aimed to use active learning methodology, used simulation-based scenarios where we conducted role plays in a very structured and methodological way to really involve, not just to tell and not just to teach, but to really involve these final year pharmacy students with basically practicing how to obtain the best possible medication history from patients. Over a 3-day learning activity, we conducted this with these students, and we shared a success story by publishing this work. But what's really important is that this methodology of teaching, based on this set of competencies, based on a combination of passion for the profession, going back to the classroom and really making a difference, even for a small group of students, this methodology and this particular course is now embedded in the curriculum at ASU in Jordan. And for that, I am very proud, and I acknowledge my colleagues at ASU for this work as well. In addition, I have had the pleasure of also spending some time as an academic at the University of Bahrain. I was fortunate to work alongside colleagues who some might be on the call today, I'm not really sure, and also work with some of the students to also start some research in this area as well. If you click a couple of times, Shirley, I'm sharing a couple of photos from my time with the students at Bahrain University. Again, thanking them for their involvement, but this particular day revolved around conducting focus groups that really were inspired by the global competency framework. So in the interest of time, I would like to just say thank you to all of them, but also just want to say that we're all on a journey here, from early career professionals to wherever your dream may take you. And on the next slide, thanks please, Shirley. I just wanted to share that I've also been on a journey with FIP since 2014 as a volunteer alongside my colleagues and fellow mates from all around the world. Also, lucky enough to have joined on the next slide, Lena and many other colleagues in Jordan for the regional conference in Amman. And today, and if you could go one more time, please, Shirley. Yep. Thank you. Yep. And today, I just want to say that today I've moved on from being a volunteer to being staff. And so this is really where I'm at. Extremely proud to be working alongside the Chief Executive Officer at FIP on a program related to continuing professional development and partnerships with member organizations. So finally, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. And I would encourage you to shine on your journeys, building on support, collaboration, connectivity, and friendships and networking. Best wishes to you all. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dalia, for sharing your journey to FIP and also for sharing the global tool to be used by early career pharmacists and students here. It is my pleasure to now introduce my colleagues, Iqwaibom Umoy Yoho, the chairperson of projects of FIP Young Pharmacists Group, and also Lucas Ercolin as a chairperson of public relations to go through what FIP YPG has been doing to support students and early career pharmacists. Iqwaibom, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Shirley. I want to appreciate all the colleagues on the call, from Lena to Dalia and Farah, and all of the colleagues around the world, specifically for those on the call from Bahrain, who would benefit so much from this particular event. I want to quickly start by putting us through how to become a member of the FIP YPG. Although Shirley, during the concluding part of your presentation, you're going to have to elaborate on this. Well, it's particularly open for pharmacists under 35 years of age, pharmacists and pharmaceutical sciences, or scientists and students, or who graduated less than 5 years ago from their first degree in pharmacy or pharmaceutical sciences, irrespective of bachelor's, master's, PhD, or PharmD degree conferral. Now, being part of the FIP YPG, FIP members benefit from the opportunity to get involved and make a difference early on in their career. And on the next slide, I'm going to just show you a bit of the structure of the FIP YPG, specifically the steering committee. Now we have a president whose name is Randy Lim. We have the president-elect, Louisa Sullivan, Secretary Maria Virginia Giolito, and myself, chairperson of projects, Iqwaibom Umoy, and Lucas Ercolin, who is going to be speaking next as chairperson of public relations. Now, this is the FIP YPG steering committee for 2021. And also we have a very huge and vast subcommittee made up of young pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists from across the world to help us to, move the work forward and to ensure that young pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists across the world are well represented. And on the next slide, I'm going to just show you a little bit on what you stand to be involved with if you become a member of the FIP YPG. First, you have the opportunity to share the FIP strategy by giving your ideas, bringing your ideas to bear. We welcome your ideas at any point in time. Receive career support through our FIP YPG Mentorship Program. I'm going to talk more on that as we progress through the slides. Speak at an FIP Congress. I understand that the COVID-19 and the pandemic has really not allowed us to meet for the Congress last year, but you have the opportunity to speak at an FIP Congress either by being the speaker or chairing a particular event. It could be a YPG event, FIP event, depending on what you have to bring to the table. Also, on professional development, we have the different areas such as the Leadership Development Workshop, the LDP 2.0 as well, and also the Career Development Toolkit for Early Career Pharmacists and Pharmaceutical Scientists, which I'm going to still elaborate on. You can contribute to global FIP projects and publications. You can apply for scholarships and grants. I'm going to still put you on to that during the course of my slides. You can attend the World Health Assembly, and then you can present your research. And on the next slide, now this slide actually shows us our core priorities for 2021. Coming into the steering committee, we had a mandate and we had quite a lot that we wanted to do, a lot of ideas here and there. What do you want to do for young pharmacists across the world? What do you want to bring to the table? But then we landed in 3 core priorities. The number 1 was to support the One FIP strategy and strengthen relationships with the FIP leaders, which we actually achieved greatly. That was owing to the number of FIP leaders who appeared at our business meeting earlier this month. And also capacity building, which was more like my core responsibility as chairperson of projects, which involved webinars, digital events, ensuring that our mentorship program is held, ensuring that our remote volunteering program is brought to bear, and then member engagement and member value proposition, which was a key one from the chairperson of public relations. Now we look here and we can see from these slides part of the FIP YPG projects, which I'm going to still talk more about. We have webinars and digital events. We have professional development package, just like I mentioned, the career development toolkit for early career pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists. We have the leadership development program 2.0. We have a remote volunteering program. We have our mentorship program, and we also have our grants and scholarships. Now, these were core parts of capacity building, and which was part of our core priorities for this year, 2021. On the next slide, for our webinars, webinars are usually organized periodically to provide a form of engagement for members and to promote capacity building by providing knowledge-based training for members. Now, FIP YPG organizes these webinars either via Zoom, like the platform we're using now, or the GoToWebinar app. But this year, we have talked more to the Zoom platform, which has been operated centrally at the FIP to allow for our members to come in and become part of events such as these, engage with other colleagues, ask questions where necessary, and also get to learn as much as they can from, depending on the topic in question. Now, we have executed 5 webinars already this year, and we still have 2 upcoming webinars. And these look to promote and give us exactly the kind of information that we need. We recruit resource persons from across the world to come in and give us the necessary information on the desired topic. On the next slide, I'm going to just show you a bit of pictorial representation of the different topics which have been executed. Most of them have been so much versed on career development, which our career development toolkit actually goes to emphasize. So this was part of a bit of a post-publication for our career development toolkit, so that pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists, young pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists, and early career pharmacists can actually utilize and use it to promote their career growth and all the different parts where they would seek to improve in the different areas of practice that they find themselves. The first one, which was continuing professional development cycle, was held earlier this year. And then we went forward to try to give a bit more information to our members on our mentorship program by, exploring effectively utilizing the GROW model, which is highlighted in the career development toolkit, as a way to develop your skills and expertise. And then in July, we had that on effectively developing transferable skills and the positive impact of training and certification in career progression. And then we had our role of early career pharmaceutical organization in global health webinar, which we had the launch of that report. And then strategies for a successful career change, which was just held end of last month. So the upcoming webinars on the next slide, which you would see, we do have some unexecuted webinars, which we seek to execute in October and then in December on different topics. Feel free to tune in at any point in time. Now on this slide, we are looking at one of our career development resources, most especially called the Career Development Toolkit for Early Career Pharmacists and Pharmaceutical Scientists. Now this was launched last year, December to be precise, and it sought to provide some form of information and knowledge to early career pharmacists on ways in which they could, come into their career. We do know that young pharmacists usually have the problem of either maybe checking and knowing exactly which career path to go into, what soft skills they need to, engage in, how to select a good mentor, how to successfully change careers when they find themselves in a particular area. And the career development toolkit just looks for a way to give you the information that you need to help you in these different areas. And of course, smart objectives, how to set smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and then timely, so that it can help you move forward as you progress in your career. And also to mention the different career paths and opportunities in pharmacy, our next webinar, which is going to come up in October, is actually really on that particular area, which I would want each and every one of us to tune in, register, and be part of that webinar so that you can get the necessary information that you need. I feel like from my previous slide, I did talk a bit about this slide. So here on this slide, you can scan. On the next slide, Shirley, so sorry to confuse you there. So on this slide, you can actually scan and download the toolkit and get to utilize it. And then the toolkit also has worksheets where you can, help provide some form of guidance to you so that you can see how effectively you've utilized the toolkit and how maybe some areas in which you need to improve on yourself. So this is all.
Iqbal, I think we lost you.
Or what is inside the toolkit from career action and evaluating. Shirley?
Now it's good. Now it's good.
Okay. Thank you very much. So on the next slide, Shirley, can you move to the next slide? So these are the different the webinars and upcoming digital events that we have. The first one is on career paths and opportunities in pharmacy and pharmaceutical sciences, coming up in October. You can log on to the website and register for that digital event. And then we also have global frameworks to support career development coming up in December. On the next slide, I'm going to show you a bit on the Leadership Development Program 2.0. Now we have a structure, and this program is solely to help us develop young leaders in YPG and maybe young professionals from across the world. We have the different ways you complete the Strength Finder test to figure out your top 5 strengths. There's monthly book discussions. There's monthly leadership reflections. And then you get to participate as a leader in some form of project so that you can actually be assessed to know how your leadership journey has gone. And actually is a paced program where at the particular time in the month, they get to meet and then get to have groups where you can actually learn and improve your leadership skills. On the next slide, I'm going to talk more on the remote volunteering program. Now, the remote volunteering program, opportunities are provided for YPG members to volunteer within the FIP. Each remote volunteering opportunity usually lasts 3 to 6 months or longer, where applicable, or depending on the task and depending on the hours involved. Now, the remote volunteers are given prior orientation before commencing their program, and then you're expected to submit a report to the FIP YPG so that we can track and know exactly where you are within the program. So on the next slide, I'm going to just talk about the mentorship program. Now, coming into the profession, most young pharmacists are usually faced with the problem of exactly how to go about maybe their task or how to go about progressing, depending on the area of pharmacy in which they find themselves. Now, the FIP YPG mentorship program aims to provide mentorship for pharmacists and pharmaceutical sciences who are developing their career. Now, the mentors provide general advice, now help in setting goals, and assist the young pharmacists and pharmaceutical scientists to stay on track with their career development. Now, the main aim of this match is not really to match it in an academic specialty, no. Basically, what we look to do is to try and merge them together to have similar pharmacy career path interests, so that at the end of the day, you have people who share same interests, maybe same goals, depending on how compatible they are, and then they get to be part of the mentorship program. Now, the mentorship program usually lasts for 9 months. We have the cycle that started in September this year and is going to run for the next 9 months. So this is an opportunity for young pharmacists to be involved, to get to learn more from more experienced colleagues who are already in practice. Maybe you have practiced for quite a number of years, say 10 years, 15, 20, or 30, and get to really be rooted in that particular area of practice. On the next slide, I'm going to just share a little bit of the grants and scholarships. Now, the first grant and scholarship that I'm going to be presenting to you is the Michael Travel Award. Now, this award was created in 2007 by the Industrial Pharmacy section, and it actually it was created in honor of Michael, who dedicated much of his time and effort to promotion of industrial pharmacy, particularly towards young pharmacists and pharmacy students. Now, the award actually provides an opportunity for one to attend the FIP Congress, free attendance to the IPS workshops at the FIP Congress, and also free attendance to the IPS section dinner at the FIP Congress. Now, usually amount to the tune of €1,500 to be used to support transportation, accommodation, and meals to attend the FIP Congress. And then the YPG grant for professional innovation. Now, it consists of a €1,000 for implementation of a project by a young pharmacist or pharmaceutical scientist who is a YPG member. Now, the project can stem from any field of pharmacy. It could be practice, science, or education, but must focus on innovation that improves the practice of pharmacy or the advancement of pharmaceutical science with direct clinical application. Now, applications are going to be open sometime next year. So I implore most YPG members from Bahrain and all across the world to also apply for that, for the YPG Professional Innovation Grant. And then I'm going to just speak a bit on the Tonok Scholarship for Young Leaders. And the FIP Foundation for Education and Research actually bestows an annual scholarship to an individual young pharmacist or pharmaceutical scientist or pharmacy student, either undergraduate or postgraduate, with outstanding leadership skills to assist him or her to attend Congress organized by the FIP. Now, this scholarship is named after the late General Secretary of the FIP, Mr. Tonok, and it provides FIP Congress registration, hotel accommodation, a return ticket to the FIP Congress location, and then 1 year individual membership of the FIP. Now, this is going to be open next year as well, so I implore all of us to apply for the scholarship as well. Now, just so I can just remind you, the Michael Travel Award is still open, so you still have the opportunity to go onto our website, get all the relevant information, and apply for it. It's going to be closing on the 30th of September. And like I said, it's open to young pharmacists or pharmacy students from any part across the world. And then remember, show keen interest and passion for the pharmacy profession. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Really?
Iqbal.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Iqbal. Very, very comprehensive information about FIP YPG. I will now hand over and invite actually to Lucas Ercolin, who is the current chairperson of Public Relations of Young Pharmacists Group, and to talk more about the public relations of Young Pharmacists Group. Lucas, the floor is yours now.
Shukran, Shirley. Shukran, Kaibon. Masao Khair. I hope that you all enjoyed this part of the presentation from Kaibon. And if you want to know more about FIP and especially YPG, the best way to search for it is on social media. YPG has a very strong presence on social media, all of them. So you can find us on Facebook, Instagram. You can even find the link on the chat box, where we will find the most updated information. And we post on all social media several times a week. So you will have plenty of opportunities to see all of those ideas and concepts, opportunities to you on first hand. So just for you to see some of the things that we do. So we have here the word No Tobacco Day. In the next slide, you see some other examples. So we have, for example, the business meeting that happened just a few days ago. We have the calendar of activities that will happen and we will show for you every month. And we also give some tips like for your normal day and your normal work. So for example, the productive Mondays, and we also talk about health during the week. So we have plenty of what you can do like with the YPG through their own social media. And it's a very young way to communicate for sure. If you see the next slide, you see even more opportunities. So we do calls, you do the campaigns, we do the events, webinars, updates from outside YPG. All those opportunities that the Ipg show to you, you find all them on our social media. And on the next slide, you'll see something also that we do, because it's not only about social media, it's about how can we provide and enable the young pharmacists of the world to also be active from their side, from their own end. So this year, we proudly did these two documents. So one, which are directly connected on the part of member relations. So we asked ourselves, started by Shirley, like, okay, what do the young pharmacists and their own organizations around the world are doing? And what do these young pharmacists want the other young pharmacists to do in their countries and in the world? Together with that, we also ask ourselves, we want the young pharmacists to get together and to organize themselves. So how can we support and enable them to do this? With these two ideas, we created these two documents. So one is this report on the role of early pharmaceutical groups on the global health, and one other is the guideline for the early career pharmaceutical organizations. So if you from Bahrain or for other people from other countries want to create your own YPG in your country, we can provide you with this guideline. Just send an email to us and we will be gladly providing these guidelines and some direct support so you can create this yourselves. And just for you to have an idea, on the next slide, we have this list of which organizations are already here. So we got this question on the Q&A that, oh, do we have an YPG from Algeria? Yes, we do. So we already found this one and we recognize them. And not only from Algeria, of course, by now we have 17 early career pharmaceutical groups in our networks that we have been in touch with, that we know that they are working existing, but we know that there are many more that exists and many more that can be created. So the young pharmacists can also be part of this vibrant community that is FIP. So for sure, if you from Bahrain or any other country wants to join this network, reach us. We are eager to support you. And okay, what do we do further for those organizations? In the next slide, you see our network sessions. So it's important for us as YPG to be in touch and to know what is the face of the young pharmacists and young pharmaceutical scientists around the world. So we did these two by now network sessions, one in South Korea, another one with Kenya, the last one that you can see in the picture, which was also in the social media. And we are now planning one with South Africa. So maybe the next networking session with the YPG is with Bahrain, who knows? I'm sure that this would be a great idea as soon that you guys can create one in your country. And we also go further. On the next slide, you see what we do on publications. So every 2 months, so bi-monthly, we do a newsletter with articles and opportunities from YPG and FIP. And also with some articles. So we are always willing to bring not only like what is going on, but also the ideas from the own heart of the young pharmacists. So what are the young pharmacists thinking and how they wanted to put their opinions for the other young like us. So even I have some articles on this, and I hope that you as a member of YPG will also receive this. And on the other month, also every 2 months, we have the Liaison Partners. So our representative on each of the different sections of YPG will provide their opportunities and news. So you know not only what's happening within YPG, but what's happening on the whole FIP. And talking about this whole part of FIP, there is this next slide that is the theme for the next year. So Kawebon showed the theme of the steering committee of this year. The steering committee of the next year is already settled. So these are the faces that you see. And hopefully, inshallah, we will have the next Congress happening, really happening physically. And it comes to the question also in the QA, that is, do we do something outside the online world? Do we do something in the physical world? Yes, maybe not this last years because of COVID, but inshallah next year we will have it, this Congress, and I hope to see you there on the business meeting of YPG, and of course in our party too, because we are young and we have all plenty of energy to meet each other. So thank you very much. Shukran.
Thank you, Ikwaibian, and thank you, Lucas, for the presentation. For now, I would like to introduce to you Abrar. She will briefly share with us her journey as well as an early career pharmacist from Bahrain. Abrar, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everybody. I'm Abrar. I graduated from the University of Bahrain with a bachelor's degree in pharmacy in February 2020. I was amongst the first batch to graduate from a Bahrain university with a bachelor's degree. Prior to that, the country only offered diploma degrees. So being one of the first Bahraini graduates with a bachelor's degree, not just me, but also my colleagues, my classmates, we didn't really know our options. Like throughout our university career, we were being guided. We had training in pharmacies, community, hospital pharmacies, even some of us trained in Nahra. But once we got the certificates, we didn't really know what we could do, where to go from then. I myself immediately started volunteering because that's when COVID started in Bahrain. I initially started volunteering in the head quarantine facility. In the beginning, when I went there, there was no pharmacist on field. It was just doctors and nurses doing everything. So I was put in charge along with two of my colleagues to manage everything related to pharmacy that could be required there, like managing the stocks of the medication, ensuring that the patients receive them, ensuring there's proper counseling. And there are some of them that we covered in our studies, but there was a lot of the management part that we had to just do it all by ourselves. We stayed in head quarantine for about 9 months, but after that, throughout the whole time, we only saw mild cases. So it was pretty manageable. But after that, head quarantine was closed and we were shifted to Al Shamil Field Hospital. Now, Al Shamil Field Hospital, in the beginning, we were only receiving patients who were positive for corona, but they had mild symptoms. But within time, around June, where the cases surged and spiked up, it was shifted to an ICU. So we were receiving patients in a critical condition. There were ICU patients for an entire building. It was a lot of stress, and especially for someone who just recently graduated, again, sometimes you feel like you're lost and you don't know what you're supposed to do, but being put in those situations helps me realize, like, even though I may not have the previous experience for it, I can still apply myself in those situations and I can still achieve great things. I can still manage my goals. Thankfully, after the surge, after the cases went down and things went back to almost normal, now we're mostly dealing with monoclonal antibodies. We give them to patients who are positive and of high risk, or also some of the contacts of that are at greater risk of contracting COVID. And that too, there's a lot of new medication involved that I have to learn about and manage, and order stocks, provide to the doctors, keep them at a specific temperature. So looking back at this year and a half of volunteering and remembering the development goals that were mentioned earlier, I can see why a lot of people wanted to know more about the communicable diseases, because that is something that we desperately needed in this period of time. I'm also glad to reflect back on like the previous years, even back when we were students, and realize that we do have an antimicrobial stewardship program. So hopefully that's something that will progress more, as well as digital health in the field of pharmacy is improving, especially with COVID. Now patients can request to receive their prescriptions delivered straight to their home instead of going physically to the hospital. And this brings me to the point that I feel like we all need to develop ourselves, especially being early career pharmacists, recently graduated, still fresh and energetic. I think having a Bahrain Youth Pharmacist Program or group is a really great idea, and I hope we can see great things with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abrar, for sharing.
Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience, sharing your challenge and how you overcome that. Thank you so much. We will be closing soon. And thank you so much, everyone, for still be with us. Although we are running out of time, apologize for that. And Abrar, yeah, I just want to say, like, your commitment and your experience is very, very inspiring. So thank you so much again for sharing that. Let me and Farah just close this session basically, and this is we would like to share about what's exactly FIP for you. So we would like to basically to encourage you to join us in FIP as a part of FIP family, because as I mentioned previously that before, like Abrar said, like as an early career pharmacist, we sometimes not sure what we need to do, and here we have FIP here to support you guys, to help you to develop your career. We have also like mentorship program like Iqaibom mentioned previously. We also have, like Lucas mentioned, like networking session where we can talk to each other and we can communicate and we can network and find friends, find another family to discuss about everything and to advance our profession together. And here basically some things that we have in FIP about the benefits for being an individual members. We are more or less already mentioned about this. We can access expert, stay up to date, gain more knowledge, and of course, go to the FIP Congress, hopefully next year we can get involved and take action and support pharmacy profession. And again, to become FIP YPG member, if you are like under 35 and graduated less than 5 years ago, you can be part of FIP YPG. For sure, you need to become FIP member first, but to become FIP YPG, it can be free. So become FIP members, you need to, I think, for Bahrain, I just have a look. For Bahrain, it is around 49 euro, but believe me, it's a worth experience to be involved there. Yeah, so you can join FIP YPG by go to FIP website. There is join there, and then you can click on that. And if you have any question, feel free to reach us. And Farah,
thank you, Shirley.
I will
so
give the floor now. Yeah.
At last, we urge you to investigate and to register for the upcoming FIP digital events. And I just shared with you the link where you can register and participate in the upcoming events, meetings, and workshops. It covers a wide range of topics, so you'll be able to choose what you wish to learn more about and hear from leaders, pharmaceutical leaders from the globe. Don't forget to follow our platforms. In the next slide, we have Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And next, please, Shirley. And we always share on our social media platforms news, publications, and up-to-dates. Finally, if we go to the final slide, Shirley, I'd like to say thank you to all of the presenters, as well as all of our early career pharmacists, our pharmacists, and our pharmaceutical scientists from Bahrain, from the Eastern Mediterranean region, and from other countries who joined us today. Thank you for your engagement. This concludes the webinar. Thank you all for attending. We hope you've learned and enjoyed this presentation. To say goodbye, I'll urge my colleague Shirley to stop sharing the screen, and I'll ask the speakers to turn on their videos to wave you all a goodbye. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Good night, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.